Guides. Intuition was the starting point for this discussion of various sources of information available to you that go beyond the logical, linear mind. In this chapter, I will address spirit guides, who they are, what they do, why they are with you, and how you can develop a more conscious and intentional relationship with them. Many of you have heard about spirit guides and wonder about your own. Many of you have, in fact, wondered if you have any. I'm here to tell you that you do have some. All humans have at least one guide available, sometimes a duo or trio, sometimes a team. Over the course of a human's life, the makeup of this team varies. There are different beings who have made themselves available for different aspects of life. And when you are headed as an individual into a chapter of life experience where you could use some support in a particular arena, let us say you're beginning a new phase when it comes to presenting yourself in the world, which could also be said as career and work. You may have a slight change occur in your guidance team because there are beings available to you who have different specialties, different areas of focus. It is not uncommon to have 3, 4, 5, 6 guides at any one time, each with a different focus. When you have resolved issues from the past and you have moved on in willingness to live in new and healthier and more complete ways, in these life arenas in new ways, that guide might go away. I say this to you because many of you have a deep concern that you might be all alone, and yet you are not. But your guidance roster does change over time. As explored in the previous chapter on intuition, you have for many thousands of years perceived yourselves as separate from Source, and yet Source is who you really are. You have simply temporarily forgotten this. You have chosen to embody in these human forms in order to explore what it's like to live as a human. And for a great deal of your evolution, for a great deal of your time in the Earth team space dimension, that has necessitated forgetting who you are. It has been very important that at certain times you do not remember it. Well, now you are remembering, and it is therefore time that you do remember. So this exploration of spirit guides for you is intended to support you in further shedding this old perception that no longer serves you, that you are on your own, that no one is looking out for you, and that when you need support, you might not get it. That perception, by the way, can be traced back to your relationship with the Earth historically, and how you have come to expect that nature and the Earth, and therefore Goddess and God, are not rooting for you, are not supporting you, and perhaps do not even love you. Footnote. See the channel volume Goddess Past, Present, and Future. End of footnote. The first topic to explore is who these beings are and their function. The term spirit guide is classification. It is sort of a job title. The individuals who have that job, who hold that position, come from a wide variety of backgrounds. Some spirit guides are people who have been embodied, people who have lived human lives on Earth, souls that have lived lives on Earth. They often, once they go through the orientation process following death, choose to stay in order to be connected to certain family members who are surviving, who survived them, in order to be of assistance as a spirit guide. There are times when disincarnate beings who have never been embodied on Earth function as spirit guides for you. Some of them you would call aliens. though the mythology on your planet surrounding that has taken a lot of ridiculous turns, a lot of fear-based, absurd turns that neither serve you nor reflect the truth of what is happening. Other beings that can be guides are those who choose to, so to speak, hang around Earth in order to help people evolve. The classification that many of you consider me to have, you call this Ascended Master. A being that has lived lives on Earth as a human and has an elevated level of consciousness and chooses to stick around to help you. And that is a job title too. So there are other portions of the divine, or souls, of all different kinds that are here to help, that can, in different ways, function as spirit guides. As I have said, every human has such beings of various kinds performing this role, having this job title spirit guide attached to them. As we explore this topic in this chapter, I'm going to be challenging you to come out of millennia of disempowerment and ideas of what divine beings are and who they are and what they do. As I have just begun for a bit now, telling you about spirit guides and who they are, perhaps some of you have been surprised to learn that your deceased relatives can function as spirit guides for you. You might also be surprised that beings you label angels can function that way for you as well. In some of your religious traditions, it is not a stretch. You have been, in other words, conditioned by some of your religious traditions to consider angels as helpers in that way. What you need to understand is that these beings are not better than you are. They are not elevated above you. They are not more important than you are. Whether it turns out your spirit guides have among them angels, ascended masters, deceased relatives, bodhisattvas, whatever, there is not a ranking system. What happens is that souls agree to support each other in their learning journeys while they are incarnated as humans. One soul says, when I go to Earth and I am human and I forget that I'm goddess, I'm going to explore the human lesson of respect. Having respect, not having respect, exploring what it means to get it, how hard do I have to work, what do I have to do, etc. Other souls come forward and say, we would love to help you learn that lesson. Let us coordinate the times that we are humans in similar time-space coordinates so that we can teach each other what we're here to learn. Because I also have a need to learn from and with you. In the context of your human relationships, two people interacting with each other, fulfill this. Not every interaction, but the more impactful, the more significant interactions have to do with these, what we would call contracts or agreements at the soul level. They are agreements based in love. I wish that you can learn your lessons, and I am willing to support you because I love you as the divine source, as myself. And the other one says, yes, thank you. I will help you as well. That is in the human context. And then two people meet, they have a relationship, it unfolds, it continues, or it ends, and they learn from these experiences together. And then they often move on to learn from other experiences with other divine beings manifest as humans, all of whom have agreed to exchange teaching. In the context of spirit guides, I wish, going forward, to use the term guides. In the context of guides for humans, some of these same contracts are in place. Some of these same agreements at the soul level are in place, and yet one member, one party, is embodied as a human, and the other is not. It has the same basis. The soul says, while I'm incarnated as a human, I desire to experience this category of human learning. And the other being says, yes, I wish to support you in that. I will do what I can. In some lives, both are living. In other lives, one is not living, but is discarnate, is not embodied. This creates a different dynamic, because the one who is not embodied is conscious of what the other soul is doing and is really up to as a soul having a human experience. This discarnate being, the unembodied soul, is aware of the big picture that the embodied individual cannot see and is not aware of. As the disembodied being functions as a guide for the human, then there is a level of support, a level of guidance that is unfolded based on what the embodied soul has set out to experience. This is a very important point. The guide, whether that guide is any kind of being, including a deceased relative of some sort, or some other kind of life karma mate partner from some embodied life on earth, that being can always see what is really going on. And the guidance the disembodied being offers the human is to support the human in getting where that human soul has intended to go. This is an important point. A human may say, I want answers from my guide about this topic. And as the guide observes the state of consciousness of the human and the kind of intention he or she has, the guide asks, is this intention based in fear or something else? Why does this person seek to know this? And then considers how all of that fits in with the plan the soul has developed for this series of lives embodied as humans. The guide then provides a certain level of support in a certain direction that will stir, nudge, lead, and or support the human in realizing the goals of the soul. I say this so that you can understand that there is a level of trust that you will be invited to choose to embody if you're going to work with your guides, no matter who they are. You are invited to have faith that they can read, so to speak, the manual that your soul has written for your life, and that you as a human very highly likely cannot read, at this stage anyway. Many of you are having your chakras or energy centers opened and are experiencing what you call extrasensory perception, and are learning about yourselves in new ways and are opening to intuition. Many of you are getting insights into the intentions of your soul and how your human life that you happen to be living and identified with at present fits into that journey. And so there are some among you who are gaining these insights, who are learning more about what your soul is intending to do, and there are some among you who are not. Either way, no matter what you are experiencing, each of you is invited to have faith that what your soul has set out to experience will be experienced. This is a fact. What your soul sets out to experience will happen, and the themes it chooses to explore will be explored. Then, as you work with guides, you are invited to have faith that they are working in your best interest. This can be difficult for those who perceive themselves separate from nature, separate from the earth, separate from the goddess and God. This can be difficult because after so many lives, how many thousands of years of living through a disconnect and not feeling willing to be able to trust the natural world, what follows is also not being able to follow the spiritual dimensions, other dimensions, and therefore disembodied beings. Many of you work through religions which appoint intermediaries between you and God. This takes the pressure off you, and this takes the burden of having to connect with these other realms away from you. This is based, of course, in a misunderstanding of who God is, because you are God. You are Source. You are the divine. You have in many ways surrendered over 6,000 years at this point as of 2011. Your willingness and your capacity to connect with disembodied realms directly and consciously and intentionally. Those are two key aspects of the situation: intention and conscious awareness in this arena of life. As you have surrendered this, you may now say, in this life you are living on earth, I wish to connect to my spirit guides. Part of you, probably your rational mind, that we explored in the previous chapter of this book says, that's not real. I don't know what that would look like. How do I know if I have spirit guides? How do I know if they're talking to me? How would I hear them? What would it look like? And on and on and on. And then on further. Questions, doubts, concerns, fears, confusion, fogginess. Remember, this conversation on guides is an extension of the conversation on intuition, and the mind has the same objections. I do not want, the mind says, to be controlled by another being. The rest of you says, but I am craving to know that I am not alone. This is a struggle for many humans, but you are getting there. Many of you are connected to your guides and to beings such as myself and others and other kinds of beings. Later in this chapter, I will explain how to more consciously develop a relationship with these beings, these guides of yours. At first, you must ensure that the many parts of you that are open to exploring this part of life and this level of experience are fed, nurtured, and given voice within you. Some of you may have some work to do regarding how much you give your mind to do, as we explored in the previous chapter. Some of you may need to change some habits in order to create space via which you are willing to communicate with guides and to have these beings in your life. So what is it that guides you? As I said, they can see, so to speak, the manual that your soul has written for your life, for all of your human lives, actually. It is the same mission statement, the same manual to set out to experience certain things, to learn what it is to be human in various contexts and various points along the Earth timeline. Why do you have guides? Because you have the support of beings who care about what happens to you. As I said, there is a disconnect that arises from surrendering your direct connection to the spirit world. For some of you, reopening that can be a little tricky to become willing to open to spiritual beings who are not embodied. Let's say discarnate beings, the disembodied beings. But you can get there. You can do this. These beings are there to support you. That is all that they are there for. In any way that you have a guide that you perceive is not helping you, it is entirely probable that you are interpreting what is happening as not helpful. Interpreting the guidance that is provided as not helpful. This is where I invite you again to have faith. These beings can only operate according to loving intentions. This is all they have to show you. Related to this, they can only hear you when you communicate from a loving place, with a loving intention. Let us say you are one day stressed out and angry and frustrated about some situation in your life that you perceive you have been asking for help with from guides of some kind and not receiving it. You might be tempted to lash out at them in anger and or to instruct them on how to better help you. You might just be frustrated and not know where you should direct your anger. I want you to talk about that with somebody. Talk about your feelings with somebody. Write it out. Journal. However that works for you to express this, to keep it from your guides. Your guides cannot actually hear you when you are emoting in that way. They can only communicate to you on a loving frequency, and they can only hear you when you are loving. When you are heart-centered and you have chosen to give your mind less to do so that you can be clear enough to hear what they have to say, the pathways to communication open. You cannot hear them if you are occupied with fear or anger or resentment or anything else. Fitting with this, when you ask them a question and you set an intention and say, I desire to be supported in learning how to resolve situation X in my life, they automatically respond with what is helpful. What comes to you, what you are guided to, and what is guided to you may seem not helpful to you, but all they can do is be helpful. That is all there is. That is all they can do. They have made a commitment, and they do not have ambiguous motives and split motivations and ulterior motives. So it is your job to work to trust that what you receive in response to your question is an answer to it. And if it is not a question but an intention of where you are headed, what has come to you is something to help you get to where you say you want to go. It is common for a human to say, Dear guides, I intend to get to this destination. And the guides, in supporting you, in helping you get there, present you with circumstances, scenarios, dynamics, and relationships that, when you encounter them, reveal to you why you are not in fact ready to go where you say you want to go. Therefore, if you are to work with guides, then you have to have faith that whatever it is they bring you is actually fitting with what you asked for and precisely what you need in that moment to get where you say you want to go. The development of faith can be challenging. You might engage in relationship with guides and find that you have some doubts that you should trust that what you are experiencing is actually for your highest good. If you have phrased it that way, if you have said, Dear guides, I'm interested in learning about situation Y in order to serve my highest good so that I may progress, etc., so that I may heal, let something go, evolve, these kinds of things. What they bring you is related, so check your reactions to what they bring you. I invite you to, no matter what it is you have asked for, and no matter what it is that you have received in return, to be grateful. These beings are helping you simply because they wish that your evolution happens. They want you to learn what you came here to learn. They support you in your goals 100%. A person's trust issues with nature, the earth, goddess, God, source, creator, and all of that, can be triggered by developing a relationship with spirit guides. Some people will have a very smooth time because they are inclined or they become oriented towards trusting what can't be seen. They might actually sense the beings, and that can contribute to the sense of trust and this willingness to open to this experience and this way of being guided. Other people will have a more difficult time, and there is no way to tell ahead of time unless you happen to know that you have trust issues. You might expect to have some things to work through as you explore this dynamic with these beings. It is your job to remember their loving intention. It is also your job to remember to be grateful to them for fulfilling this role for you. Nobody has to do this for anybody. There is also the effect that when you are grateful for what you experience, you open to experiencing more, and it can become easier, less complicated for you to determine when your guide is helping you. Gratitude here is very important, in other words. It is important on its own, and it also serves, I wish to say, to drive the process of refining your sensitivity to the information you receive, meaning that guides are always communicating with someone who is asking questions and seeking input and guidance when it is from a loving place and with a loving intention. This guidance is always there. These beings are always with you. That leads me to speak of the technologies of how they communicate. The first thing to know is that this intention that you have is important, And let me say one more thing about this. I said they can communicate with you and can hear you if you are operating according to a loving vibration. When you ask questions and perceive there are no answers, and you ask for guidance and support, and you perceive it is not there, it is your job to check your motivation. Why do you want the thing you want? Why are you trying to get where you're trying to go? In tracing it back, you might find that there is, at the core, at root, a fear-based intention that does not in fact serve your highest good. So choosing to develop a relationship with your guides automatically leads you down a path to understand more about what your real motivations are. For example, you might say, "It is my desire to be successful in a material way. I desire to be very well paid for the job I love doing." When it comes down to it, you may find that at the core of that desire to be successful and to be well paid is a fear of not having enough money or food, not enough resources. And so you might have a fear of security that drives your intention to succeed. In this case, the guides cannot help you with that specific thing. What they can help you with is to see this, to see what is actually happening. So there can be some indirect support that makes you feel that you are not being supported because the literal goal is not being literally met with their actual help. You will have in time, or you have the opportunity over the course of time, to become attuned to the influence of these guides and to understand when they are having a hand in what is happening and when they are not. The channel Seth experiences this. The phrase that he uses is, "The guide's fingerprints were all over that situation." And you, over time, as you develop more conscious awareness of what these beings are and how they operate and how you operate, and more awareness from where your intentions come and how you function in the dynamic, knowing that these beings are actually a constant. They respond with love to a loving question and a loving intention. So you have the chance to develop and to fine-tune your sensitivity to what they are involved and fine-tuning your awareness to the kinds of things that they are available to help you with and the kinds of things that you are to do on your own. Fine-tuning your sensitivity and awareness can come over time. In the beginning, though, you must learn about your real intentions, and this happens on a case-by-case basis. Perhaps you say, "I wish to have this kind of life partner where I have these kinds of dynamics, and I have this kind of joy and success." That can be from a totally loving place, but the desire for success in a material way might actually be rooted in a fear of lack. And in this case, you might be able to perceive the fingerprints of your guides all over these ways in the relationship situation, and you might not perceive them on the work or the career or the success of the financial situation. These guides and their commitment to you, in essence, their commitment is to help you, to support you in your growth. And as you open to experiencing what is available through this dynamic with them, your consciousness level will be raised. If you do go through a process of learning to discern your true motivation and trace your desires back to the root motivation that raises your level of consciousness, if you learn how to see how your mind creates a fear dynamic, thereby feeling you can't trust these guides, and you decide to address this, that raises your level of vibration. That raises your level of consciousness. So when you commit to open, to learning how to work with these guides and to allowing their supportive influence to guide you to choose what is best for you, is actually what is happening. You submit to having your level of consciousness raised, and then as you do that, you can become more sensitive to them. Now I would like to speak about these technologies and how you communicate with them, and how they communicate with you. To those who have not experienced guidance, it can seem as though they should be talking to you. The channel Seth often is asked the question, "Do you hear a voice in your head?" He receives many questions about this from clients and students. How would I know that they are communicating with me? If they are here, why can't I hear them? Aren't they supposed to be talking to me? The answer is that each human has a certain array of technologies available for these beings to communicate. There are humans who hear directly the voices of their spirit guides. There are others who are communicated with in images. There are others who are communicated with in images that are actually memories of theirs, that have a certain thought attached to that memory. As the memory comes up for the human, the thought is had, "Oh, yes, I remember this is what happened and why." So the guide is communicating. This is or is related to the answer. It can also happen that, as an extension of this phenomena, whenever the human has associations with certain concepts or experiences or realities or people, those can be the vocabulary for communication from the guides that pop up in the mind. Other people see energies. Still others feel on their bodies a physical response to the energy of the guide. The channel Seth experiences feeling touched by unseen hands when what he has brought through is appropriate for the client, so to say, as a confirmation for hitting the mark with some bit of truth that brings in more truth. Seth kind of reaches into the ethers and pulls out these pieces of information and says, this is what I see. And the guide can say via this touch, this non-physical touch, "Yes, you're onto it. You've got that. This is the direction. Unfold that and you will have the answer to the client's question." Other people just know, with an idea simply planted in their minds by the guides. Still other people, whose minds may be more active, meaning the opening to have information implanted in the consciousness may be lessened or narrowed because of the activity of the mind, might be presented with other routes and means of communication. There can also be guidance in the physical world around that person. The person's attention might go towards a certain thing repeatedly. For instance, you ask a question of your guides. You say, "Dear my guides, I'm seeking clarity on this confusing issue that I have in my life. I do not feel clear on this, and I could really use your support in seeing the right way to move through this, in seeing what it is that I need to know in order to proceed." And you might see over the next 3 days a billboard in 8 spots on your commute to work that you had never seen before, but may have been there for weeks or months. This billboard would stand out, whatever the message is. Whatever the message is would trigger or represent an answer for you. You would feel a vibration effect when you see it, and you can know that this is the answer to your question. Part of the answer or related to the answer. It also happens when you overhear conversations that seem to stand out. Your attention is being attuned to the world around you, and so the answer for your question has a certain vibration. It is also entirely likely that you will move through phases as your sensitivity and your openness become fine-tuned. But your attention is put on or drawn to the answer. It also happens when you are driving on the street and you will say, "I'm going to this place and I have to take these 2 rights at this certain point," but you feel a need, perhaps a compulsion, to go a different route. You may find a visual clue. You may run into somebody en route who helps you with the answer. The main idea to impart to you here that you accept as truth in this process of working with the guidance is that when you say, "I wish to know this, I wish to have more insight, thank you," that you have a loving intention, and then you are grateful for it. You thank them in advance. They will do it for you. They will do it if you don't thank them. But it's nice to have a loving relationship and to appreciate what these beings are doing for you. Actively appreciate what these beings do for you on a regular basis. When you, as a powerful divine creator, say, I desire to head down road A to get to destination B, then life, including your guides, begins to conspire to work behind the scenes to support you in getting there on road A to destination B. This is where upgrading your conception of yourself from human with a brain, who has a job, who eats and sleeps, to divine, powerful creator, who is creating the world around the self, is important. It is where this upgrading of self-concept and self-awareness is very important. You perhaps have heard that your thoughts create your reality in the context of guides. Your thought creates an intention for these guides to act upon. You are the person who is in control of this dynamic. You are the divine, powerful creator. It is actually such that you, as, this is an interesting way to look at it for you, as an embodied human, are essentially playing a game about learning how to be human. These guides are outside the space of the game. They are outside the parameter inside which the game itself unfolds and is played. They are watching from outside the circle, so yes, they see the big picture, but the focus is on you, because the learning that takes place as a divine energetic being, a portion of all that is, a portion of Source, a part of God, of Goddess, is embodied to learn. That is where the learning takes place. That is the entire game. That is why this is happening, so these beings can step out of the game. When it's time for them to stop, they can step out and say, yes, I'm actually going to hang around on the periphery here, support this person who is now playing the game. What I wish to impart to you in this section of the chapter is that your intention drives everything in this process, because you are the one who is embodied. What I want to have you break yourself out of is any sort of conception of a relationship with a non-corporeal being that has been elevated over you. Your organized religions revere God as a separate entity. Many of these religions, though of course not all of them, mostly, however, this teaching will teach people who are conditioned by patriarchal religions. That is why I say this. As you orient towards the reality of this dynamic that occurs with the spirit guides, that unfolds surrounding your relationship with spirit guides, understand that they are not above you. They are not better than you, and they do not seek that you behave in a certain way in order to appease them. They are not in control of what is happening. They are very clearly committed on being supportive of what you want to happen. The vast majority of humans have, for the last several thousand years, become accustomed to feeling disempowered. The world acts upon me. I have to do these certain things in order to please this God or that God. This state of disempowerment can have part of your mind saying, I don't want to work with spirit guides because I like being in control of my life. Well, these beings don't control your life. They have no intention to do so. There are beings that can try to follow you around who might have an intention. And so you say, I'm available to work with guides who have my highest good in mind, and you commit to that, and you repeat that. And any beings that are hanging around you who do not have your highest good in mind must leave. You are a powerful divine creator. And when you set the intention, that intention is law. It is the same with these guides who help you, who are available to support you in your journey of unfolding as a human, as a divine being having a human physical experience, having forgotten your divinity. You are the one who drives the process. You are the one in charge. This is the reason that it sometimes happens that you ask guides to give you input on something and they say, trust yourself. And you say, no, please, thank you, but I'm actually really in need of guidance right now, and I don't feel clear on this. And the guides say, sit down and meditate, or go outside and run around the block, or go get some exercise to clear your head. Sit down, and then make your decision. This can be very frustrating for you, but this is a way of ensuring that they communicate to you that you are the one in charge. None of these guides who works in the human's highest good have an agenda other than supporting that human's highest good. This is a fact. It is how this game works and how these observers of the game participate. They, in other words, cannot do anything for you that you do not intend and will. Fitting with this and going back to the idea of how the intention has been formed for what you say you want or the direction you say you wish to be headed in, if the intention is fear-based, it is possible for humans to get into a pattern of waiting for the guides to protect them from some sort of scary situation. Yet that is not how the guides work. At different times in human history, you have received guidance and you have been in a disempowered state. The rules of the game as the Earth timeline has unfolded have changed. Many humans now are invited to step into their own power as divine creative beings. Therefore, it is in many humans' highest good that their relationships with guides change. Fitting with this, you might have a conception of what a guide is supposed to be and do, including the idea of offering protection from frightening scenarios or the kinds of scenarios that have caused you pain in the past. And it would be time now, as of this writing, in the year 2011, for this to be upgraded, for your guides to respond to your queries and questions and requests in a way that seeks to empower you, that seeks to reveal to you that you are the one in charge. Now, I do not say that you are the one in control, because it is not about control, but it is about you being, so to speak, prime mover of your life, that you are the individual who sets these things in motion, and that your intention drives the process, that spirit guides respond to you, and they can only respond to the intention that you have set. This is a very important point. There are people coming out of conditioning from these different sorts of religions on earth and very spiritual traditions that are separate from them, who, when the idea of seeking guidance from disembodied others comes in, when this idea pops up, they might be inclined to ask this being to share its wisdom with them, and they might be inclined to do whatever such a being tells them to do. You, therefore, might have emotional memories from the other lives, which is to say karma, about how this process might work. But it is different now. The rules of the game have changed because your consciousness is evolving. What was in your highest good on Earth timeline 1,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, even 200 years ago, is not the same as it is now. The highest good changes because, as you say, I will be alive in 2011 for this incredibly magnificent shift, the accumulation of the evolution of consciousness. The game has changed because of this opportunity you have to evolve your consciousness. This is a grand opportunity, and you have chosen to be here for this. But as you set that intention, it is clear to the soul that the context in which this life will play out when you are alive in 2011 is a different context than hundreds or thousands of years ago in your other human lives. This is, by the way, one reason why you are able to process so much right now and access so many other emotions and emotional memories from other lives that come up so strongly, because the evolution of consciousness supports your developing awareness. In the context of the spirit guides, the evolution of consciousness leads you into understanding your true role as a divine, powerful, creative being who is calling the shots in your life. In many ways, spirit guides will seek to educate you to cease giving your power away to anyone. A new way to look at this, a model that might serve you as useful, is to see it as a collaboration. While you are embodied as a human, you cannot perhaps see the bigger picture, and you rely on these other beings to support you in helpful ways, in loving ways, to support that evolution, to support the mission that you came here to fulfill for yourself as God and Goddess. This is a collaboration. What I wish to say next is that for a time, in any of your lives, for any of you, the relationship with spirit guides is in fact a stepping stone to you choosing to be empowered as a divine being. What I mean to say is that as you choose to have relationships with spirit guides, those relationships may not last forever. You might feel safe finally, because you feel somebody is looking out for you. Somebody is looking out for your highest good. But there will come a time when you have learned from them about your mission, when you have learned from their reactions and support of you what you are really doing here and how you can progress in your healing. There will come a time when you have seen all you can from them. They might start to go away. They might say, "Thanks for the opportunity, I'm out of here." You will notice a change in your life, and you will have the choice to be disempowered by this, or to recognize it as a sign that you are ready to fully inhabit your own power. For many humans, this can be a difficult prospect. "Look," the human says, "I had this team that was supporting me, and now I have no one." Please understand, dear reader, that you, in the process of learning from your spirit guides, learn about yourself as a divine being. The collaborative team experience supports you in opening and in altering your level of consciousness, raising your level of consciousness to the point that you can see your divinity in action, that you can see with clarity that you have created what you are experiencing and have experienced over all time. When you grasp this, it is possible that you and they will each go your separate ways. As I said, every human at all times has beings available, but the link, the open channel between a human and his or her guides, may shift a little. It may get, so to speak, put to the side a little after this evolutionary stage is reached. Now do not think then that you are alone. In the state of consciousness you are now in, as you read this, it is likely you have not experienced much with your spirit guides directly. And so from your perspective, at this time, in this context in which you have lived thus far, it can seem a negative thing. But as you grow into inhabiting yourself as Goddess and God, as a portion of all that is, only temporarily separated, only temporarily forgetting, and apparently separated from each other because you have this discrete physical body, as you see this, you see the results of your choices, and you see that everything that has happened to you is the result of choice, and a belief, and a thought, and an intention. You are then connected with life in a new way. You are then connected with the earth, and with all other beings living on earth, and with other beings operating on other levels, other than the physical and body dimension in which you find yourself at this time. In other words, do not allow the fear of being separate again, the fear of having connection, to divine source be severed again, throw you in anyway. Work with the guides until it is very clear that everyone is ready to see you move into a new chapter of empowerment. For those who experience this, there comes a time when they are inclined to ask less of guidance, or they are inspired less to ask for other input. It's a natural process, is what I want to say. It is not about severing a relationship. It is not about someone being fired or abandoned, nothing of the kind. It is a reflection that you, the player in the game, where all the focus has been placed naturally because of the rules of the game, it is a reflection that the player is ready to run the game, to run his or her role in the game on his or her own with conscious attention, with awareness of cause and effect. What goes with this is what I want to go deeply into now. When I say cause and effect, and you can see that everything that you have experienced is your creation, etc., I wish to go deeply into this right now. For you to explain yourself as a divine being, for you to connect in a conscious way with your true divine essence, your true nature, you must accept responsibility for all that has happened to you. Some of you are afraid of the idea of taking responsibility because you have suffered. And what kind of person would you be if you had caused yourself suffering intentionally? Well, this learning journey of the soul, nothing about it from your conscious personality's perspective is intentional, but all the pain that you have experienced is part of your learning journey, as experienced by soul. Once you can accept that principle, then you can proceed with going through your history and making peace with why you created what you did. Now, as this relates to the conversation about spirit guides, and then ultimately coming to your own power and running your own game, what I wish to tell you is that when you cross a line from believing that things happen to you to understanding how natural law results in your energy field manifesting the world around you, then you are ready to take responsibility, and you are ready to be the person who is running your role in the game on Earth. Creating space to work with your guides is an extension of creating the space to open to intuition. Giving the conscious, logical, linear, controlling, strategic planner mind less to do, spending more time aware of the rest of you, which can come from meditation, being intentional about and committed to learning more about who you really are, and then when it comes to these other beings, extending this by being intentional about what you wish to learn and how you wish to evolve. What you are willing to give up in order to evolve. This opens you up to intuition. It is about what you are willing to give up in order to evolve, which is the control of the mind. These beings are only here to help you, to support you in unfolding in the precise way that your soul has set out to experience. These are divine beings, willing to support you as a divine being in your apparent separateness from the divine. Be grateful to them. Be clear about how you work with them, and be grateful for them. Be grateful for all they do. Trust that each answer to a question is, in fact, useful. Get over your preconceived ideas and your knee-jerk reactions about the responses. Remember that all they are doing is helping you. All they do is support you in your unfolding as a divine being, having these various human experiences along the Earth timeline.